Jasmine, as usual. Well, not next week. So these are the pull requests we merged from Thursday. This one is about using a different format when generating SQL queries. The ISO 8601 format. The difference is that instead of having a space between the date and the time, there is a T. It's more common apparently from for databases. Identity support to menu create command switch. Yeah, the idea is that it's identity as in identity part. So when you create a menu item, now you can, or a menu, you can, no, a menu item, you can define the, a menu. Menu here. Yes, you can define an identity for the menu. It's just this because the menu command accepts, I think, an identity for setting. There is something like this. A menu item, maybe in the export, uses the identity to reference the parent menu, and otherwise there is no way from a recipe to create the menu and the menu items. So you need to be able to set the identity for a menu when you create a recipe. This one, admin content list, fixing lowercase, removing to force the lowercase on the lists for the bulk actions, and also fixing one of the classes to be from filter to order. And this one is because sometimes I think it was German, the word culture had different meanings with the lowercase and the uppercase, so it's not forced anymore. And this way it's taking the translation as is. The idea being that the text that we were writing was already lowercased. The translation was using the uppercase because the uppercase meant something different than the lowercase, which was correct, but the CSS was lowercasing the translation, so this is why it was a bug and it was fixed. Fixing typos. So Antoine opened this issue a few months ago with simple things to fix, and someone took the task and fixed the simple typos. CRN. I must have made this one. I don't know why there is R here. The R is not even close to the N. Same thing here. I must have copy pasted. Yeah, that's what I do. I copy paste. I copy paste their messages. So I copy pasted everything, every issue. Okay, good. And this one on 110x, Sanitize username in activity is just that. Otherwise, the activity will not work if you add a space, I think. So that's it on Orchard 1. Orchard 2. Orchard 2, 6 days ago, fixing the solution. Print, so Jean-Thierry, print compilation messages to the right console. So if you're in Visual Studio, you will see the compilation errors in Visual Studio while you debug because of the dynamic compilation. So at startup, if it's building something and there are issues, you will see that. Or if there are no issues, you will also see that. Shahid, who is also working on fixing the unit tests, so fixing more unit tests. Okay. Fixed an issue with spaces. I don't recall what. Fix composite command implementation and test. Yeah, the explanation was correct, so we'll trust him. Oh, I never left. This is my branch, and this is until removing any reference to Orchard.Core, because there is no more Orchard.Core. And we don't need actually all the specific implementation for module loading and everything from Orchard.Core is not necessary anymore. The specific with Orchard.Core, even in Orchard 1, is that it's a module. Well, it's a project which contains different modules separated by folder. So the loading and the inspection of these folders had to be done differently. So now there is no more such thing in Orchard 2, so we can remove that. I also worked on the blocks. You remember last week I showed the Craft CMS, and we talked about on top of having content parts and content fields, having something called blocks that will be like fields, but as a part or reusable set of fields. It was kind of a headache actually, because that's everything is weird in Orchard. The part, the fields, and this thing was not a field but looked like a field. It's not a part but it looks like a part. So I didn't really know what to do with that. I went back and forth on the implementation, but now I have something which works, and I will show you. I also found some bugs, by the way. Even created another branch because I was like, no, that what I did was wrong. It had to be different, and I think I will merge the two things at some point. We'll see. So right now, let me show you how it looks like. And also I want to talk about some changes. Okay, loaded. There is no home page. I will go on the admin. I need to authenticate. Authenticated. Now content types and content parts, exactly like in Orchard 1. You can list the content types. Okay. You can list the content parts. Okay. And you see that I have something called address. Okay. And the ID. So what I did is that I made so there is no notion of content blocks like we talked about last week. It's just a part. A block is just a part, but a part with a specific metadata. So the idea is when you create a new part, you can give it a name. Okay, I want to create a new part. I will edit an existing one. But we had attachable to be able to attach to a content type or not. And now there is reusable. So why went this way is because I wanted to reuse most of what we had with parts, because parts can host fields, and I didn't see any constraint with the ultimate goal of being able to use these ones multiple times on a content types or on a content type, like we could do for, or have our own representation for the layout. Because that's also part of the goal, to be able to reuse it for the layouts. Instead of elements, we have, in this case, it's a content part, but the part in this case can be attached multiple times if you want. So it's just a metadata now that defines if a part is attached only once or more than once. Okay, and you will see how it behaves in the data. It's,
would it make sense to be able to also name the attached part?
Wait.
Sorry.
They are already in the content. Well, I went there because parts are actually already named.
Yeah, but fields are also named. You have a
fields are also
text
named,
field, but you can give them a display name.
Yes, you will see. So at the part level, you just say the part address is reusable. That's what you say. And you can add fields. Here I added, in my part, I added two fields, city and street. text fields, like in any part. Okay, so same as part, a part can have fields. So I just created a new dynamic part and added fields to it and said now it's reusable. And what happens because it's reusable, if I go edit a content type, I will create a new type just to show you. I will call it person. Okay, content type ID person, create. I can add parts to person, okay? And these parts, you see, they are only the non-reusable parts, like our previous content parts, the ones we know. Like, you want to attach something to person, which part do you want to attach? These are unique attachable parts, okay? So I could say, I want title, no, I want nothing, save. Okay, but then I can add fields to a type, and I can add parts to a type, but I can add parts or reusable parts. So if I say add parts, again, I can just select one and that's it. If I say add reusable part, now I can define what is a display name, what is a technical name.
Yeah, that was what I was referring to. That's
yes.
Cool.
So here I will say, I want to select address, okay, and I can say main address, okay, technical name main address, description the main address. So what happens there? I didn't change anything almost, just metadata. Display name is just a metadata at the between a type and a part. This is what we call in Orchard a content type part definition setting. Okay, this is associated to the association. The technical name is how the part state will be attached to the content type. There has always been a technical name to parts, but by default they were the name of the part. So when you are in a content item in Orchard 1 and you want to access the body part, you say content item dot body part, and this dot body part accesses the member named body part of the content item. Okay, because we could only attach one part of the same type to a content item, there was no ambiguity. When you said dot body part, it was the instance that will be actually the body part. Now, because we can reuse the parts, we can define a name. I could call it address, that's fine, but here I will call it main address, so that the next one I can call it secondary address or whatever other address I want. They will have a different name. And in the case of the common parts, the ones which can only be attached once, you don't set a name because by definition they are not reusable, so their name will be the name of the part. So we don't have to ask the name of the part. And then the description, same thing for display name, is just the metadata in the link between a type and a part. And this metadata is used when we display the editors for the content parts and the content types. So here I can say save. And now in the type, I can see there are fields and there are parts. There is the part named main address. So here we are using the display name. And if it's not available, we use the name of the part. And you can also use the description. And yeah, so, and the description is either the description of the linked part or the part's description itself. Not for this type, but like if I had a body, you will see, save. See, the name here that is displayed is the display name, but in this case it's just body. And in this case it will be the description of the part itself. And not, yep.
That's pretty cool, but I have a question. So do you have a reusable part that's just metadata, as you mentioned? So you configure a part, whether it's reusable or not, and based on that you vary the user experience. For example, you have add parts and add reusable part. Do you think there will be a way where we merge the two, if you will? So whenever you attach a part, there's no need to distinguish between a reusable part and a part. Every part would be reusable. definitely.
Yes, we could make every part reusable, but some parts can't be reused. Their goal is really to be not reused, like autoroute. You don't want to have two autoroutes in the same type. It adds a behavior. So when your part adds a behavior, you don't want it twice.
That makes sense. And even though technically you could add it by changing its metadata, at least now from a configuration point of view, you can prevent the user from doing that.
I could go on content parts, edit body, and make it reusable. Okay? This would be fine. It would work. Technically, it would work. I will have different bodies with different names. But again, they won't have the body. They won't be attached as a body part. They will be, oh, you have a named body part, but this is not the body part. You can't do a .as body part. So if you have an RSS feed which wants the textual description of a content item, by default the body part will provide it. Here it won't be able to provide it. So you see, you lose the behavior.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why they are all the same actually. It's just they are usable or not. Or we could make the opposite and say they are unique or not. But in the end they are parts. And this way we can reuse everything which was already done for body parts. This is why the commit itself is very small. So here these are just bug fixes actually that I found by implementing that on the content management. This is just same thing, bug fixes. This is just related to bug fixes actually again. So this is a change that before we were naming the thing of the type of the part, now we need to create prefixes. Because on the same page you can have now the same part twice. Before you could not. So the prefix was very simple, part name. Now you can have it. So it has to be the type part definition name, which is the name of the address, like main address, and then the name of the field, like street. So it will be main address dot street, secondary address dot street. So you see, we have to adapt some things because it was not handled correctly before, but otherwise the same thing. And here it's just nothing. Same thing here. So just renaming, instead of using the name, the type name of the part, we need to use its name, its local name, which was there already before but never used.
So
one question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Shaman.
You first.
Okay. One question: what happens if the part has a hard-coded content part record, like title part, or how it's recorded data? If you make it reusable.
That's a good question.
Let me think. There is no such thing anymore.
Yeah, that's document. Yeah, that's solved automatically because in Orchard one you wouldn't be able to.
Okay, let me show you how it's stored in the database. The example I just gave you, and you will see that there is no conflict. You will see why. It's beautiful. I love it. Well, there is an issue. Well, I will show you all the issues and why there is no issues. So your first question is, now you can have multiple times the same type. So you can't have title part record, for instance, okay? But there is no such thing as a title part record. There is something related, but there is no such thing. So if I look at tables and I look at content, you will see that I've created one. Let me show you in the app. If I go to content items, I have an article. It's stupid example, but this article has two addresses. Okay. It has, I call it billing address and shipping address. It's not displayed here, but there are two addresses, billing and shipping. Okay. So if I go to database here, this is item 324. 324 is this one. This is all the versions, so this must be the latest version. And I will edit it. So we have all the properties of the content item. We have article, which is the fields of the article. We have address, which is an old thing when it was not working. Don't worry. We have billing address and we have shipping address. Okay. So in the database itself, the document. So you see body part, because body part, there is no name for body part. Its name is the name of the type, body part, which has some properties. Body and small body is actually a field in body part. Billing address, city text, shipping address, city text. Okay. So there is no more records for title part record, and you can't create records for any parts because there is no such thing. What you can create is an index, which is a projection of this document or a specific part into a table. So now the question arises, which is, how do we do that? But it's actually very simple, because yes and no, it's not that simple, but let me show you some examples for body part. Body part, what examples do I have? Container part, I don't even know. Title part, I must have a title part example. Title, migrations. No, I don't have an example for title, so I must have one for lists. List indexes. So I created an index by saying, for each content item, okay, if you have the contain part, then we create a record with this property and this property. And here we do a .as. So we expect this part to be attached as unique. Okay, so we can do a .as, and it has that or not. Okay, well, it is a content part or not. In the case of title, again, same thing, you have it only once. If you create a code part which can be reused, which you can do, you could create your own address part from code with very complex UI and not just fields. And then you will not do a .as, but what you could do is iterate through all the properties, and every time you see that one of the properties or the parts is of this type, then you do something. And in this case, you will have more than one element, so it will not be an what is called here a map index. It will be a reduced index. Okay.
It's a cool solution.
So yeah,
different but cool.
Yeah, that's how it works in Orchard too. But I'm still open to some questions like this, because maybe there is a scenario I've missed and it will not work, so we have to fix that. But so, okay, so this is how it looks like when we have two parts. So I will show you the article to show you that it has a field. I tried with a field at the type level, and fields actually are fields. So when we add a field, even in Orchard 1, when you add a field to a type, it's actually creating a named part of the type. So this is the article type. It's creating a named article part, and the fields are attached to a part, because in Orchard 1 and in Orchard 2, all the fields are actually attached to parts only. This is why I wanted to reuse parts, because they already knew how to store fields. So now you see it's attached there. And now, instead of attaching a field to the name of the type, then we attach a field to the name of dynamic part, address or billing address. Okay, this is how it works. And this is also why in Orchard 1 you have to do content item dot article dot summary to get the field. You have to say dot the name of the type, which is actually the name of a part, which has the same name of the type. When we attach a field at the type level, it's actually inside a part. And this is just a UI trick that we just render the fields at the same level of the type and not inside a part. Because if I go to edit billing address, I can edit the fields, but I have to go to the billing address part here, not from the type directly here. So it's just the UI logic to render the fields there. And you can see billing address, shipping address, I can just remove them. Ideally, I should be also able to edit them to change maybe the name, even if we don't want to do that, but at least the description, yeah, we should be able to change the description with an edit. That's it. Also, the settings are defined, the settings are defined at the part level. Like if, so apparently in Orchard 2, I made it explicitly also that when you create a part and you attach fields, the part have the settings of the field. So apparently that's how it works. Yeah. So I think that's it. And also I ensured and fixed some behavior. I have questions though, and I have questions. So look at what I did also. I fixed placement, I improved placement. You saw the file earlier. So this is the placement files, and you can see contents publish, blah, blah, blah. And I checked that we could override the placement for each field. So text field edit. Okay, text field edit is a shape that is used for this field, 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 all of them, okay? They are all text fields, so they all use the same shape for editing the field. They are all based on text field edit. So what I'm doing here is, when they are on display type edit, which is unnecessary because if this one is displayed, it's probably almost only on edit. If the differentiator, like in Orchard 1, is billing address.city, okay, then place it at content 60, and this one place it at content 50. Okay, so street for billing address, street will come before city. Street before city. This is this one. Otherwise, it's city before street. It's this one. So you can also use differentiator like on any part, and that will work. I think yes, in Orchard 1, I think we did it this way.
Yep.
Okay. Dash and the name of the differentiator. But people will not see the notion of differentiator. You will, oh, for a text field, I need to do dash and the name. That's what you know by convention. But here it's easier to say, for the text field, the differentiator, this thing, this is this one. Okay. And if you don't want to define anything for this specific one, well, you just remove it, and that works too.
What if you so in placement and info in Orchard 1, you have the ability to use a match statement, so you can group multiple place elements.
Yeah.
How would that look in this JSON format?
You can't. We talked about it. I think a few weeks ago when I showed it. That's a drawback. You have to define multiple rules. The only thing you can group is the shape type.
Right. Okay.
We talked about it because I said, well, we could have some code, and this way, if display type define two rules, okay, like match, place, but here no. Here you start with a shape type, and then you say it's also cool to be able to define the logic for all the logics for the shape, like in this display type you are displayed here, in this display type you are displayed here, and so on. So it's grouped by shape. Yeah, I do like that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, these are properties of the shape, if you will, configuration properties.
Yeah, and these are rules. I call them placement nodes in the code, but these are rules. And then, so what I need to do also is that, so far it's not the case, but I will improve it so that there might be multiple providers. So any provider will be able to inspect a node and add more constraints or more impact actions. So for instance, we need to be able to say wrappers or shape to convert the shape to another type, see things like that. Or something I don't have today is content filter on the content type, only if it's the content type article. Okay.
We have that today in placement of the info.
Yes, sorry, today in Orchard 2.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I don't have it. Yeah, because the placement logic is completely independent than the content management. So this thing, there is nothing related to content management here. So the modules are completely separate. So placement is in the display for shapes. So I can't do content type in the current module because I haven't implemented the extensibility, which is iPlacement node interpreter, for instance. And then we'll be able to extend that. But at the same time, we'll be able to expand it in any ways you want. Create crazy modules, I don't know. So the placement context something, shape placement context, you see it contains only shape type, display type, and differentiator. That's it. It doesn't know about the content type. On purpose, just to make the modules completely independent, because the display management has nothing to do with content management. So you could reuse shapes in any MVC app, even if you don't want content management. That's it. So my concerns and questions I have about it is, Siaman, you want to do your demo because I don't want to take all the time, and then if I have time, I will ask the questions.
I need 10-15 minutes, so we can continue.
Which means it will take half an hour. That's how demos work.
I'm
okay.
ready if you want to come to me.
Oh, you are also ready? Okay, so let's do all the demos and we'll see later if I have questions. You can stay to answer my questions. Okay, Chris, go. You are a presenter, and Siaman, I will make you a presenter too. I'm stopping the presentation, so you can start when you want, Chris.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how. Okay. Okay, can people see that?
Not yet, and we have to wait for Janos. So Janos. Good. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, so over the past week, I've been working on a feature called Live Preview, and the idea is that as someone edits content, they can see their changes instantly in a preview panel, if you like. So the way I've gone about it is I added a zone into this page here, and this zone appears on the right hand side. So there's a right hand column zone, and that allows anyone to just plug shapes into there. This change adds in a live preview shape into the right hand side, and when that's rendered, it allows you to live preview. So to enable live preview for a content type, you can see here it's not being displayed. If I go to the content definition, find page, and we have a new option here, live previews. So if I tick live previews, that enables live previews for that content type. So if we go back to edit this page, we see now it's put the live preview shape into the right hand column, and I get an option to toggle it on or toggle it off. So if I toggle it on, it will pop up and give me a bit more room. So this kind of overlays on top of the normal UI. You can see it's gone past the menu a bit, and that allows us to basically maximize the space that we've got, especially when something's got a layout on. So I'm free to drag this page across, which is quite handy if you've got a responsive site and you want to just check all the breakpoints. So the best way to demo is to just go ahead and change something. So if I change the title here, welcome to Orchard, what we'll see is this title here will change as I type.
Can you move layout items? First layer aside and second layer aside? What?
Not at the moment. And there is a reason for that. there's currently no event to hook into.
You need a refresh button.
Yeah.
At least.
But what I was thinking of doing is creating an event handler so that third-party modules can hook into it, and then they can basically provide a notification to say when something's changed. And the opposite's also true, because you actually don't want to re-render that on every change. For example, if I change the URL of the item, you don't want to re-render it because there's nothing to change.
So it has to be opt-in. So that's why it's opt-in from a module's perspective. But you could also have a refresh button to force the refresh.
Yeah, you could. The way I was going, the way it works at the moment is it's just listening to on key up events for any input. But this is literally just a kind of.
So change the layout and change the title after. Well, you know that. I think you can't move things. You can copy paste, cut paste.
Well, these are columns, so you can shift those columns around.
Oh.
I pressed the wrong button.
Well, now you know. So.
Okay, so just moved. Yeah, so first, third, and then an empty one. So if I change this, no.
So how are we doing the live preview? Isn't that so you aren't continuously updating the draft upon key press?
No, not the draft. I created a new option, so there's two new version options: live preview and live preview required, and they're slightly different to draft. So you will only ever have a single live preview saved, as opposed to draft where you can keep mounting them on top of each other. And if something's saved as a live preview, it doesn't affect the current draft or the current published version.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a published version.
But at the same time, why doesn't it work? Because it should have updated this live preview version, right? Upon key.
There's a bug. You will find why. Maybe there's an issue with the layout module, how it works. I don't know. Like it needs to be serialized. I don't know.
No, yeah, yeah. Actually, that could be the case.
I'm guessing that possibly the layout gets serialized into JSON and put into a hidden field on submit.
And this happens upon either clicking publish or something like that. So, you need to look into what.
Yeah. But this is this is early doors, so
and that's why you need maybe custom JavaScript so that modules can plug to it and say, oh, I need to render also now.
Yeah, yeah.
So both ways, like the module can tell you when there is an update, and you can tell it, hey, serialize, do whatever you need to do before I serialize, before I send it to the server. And in the case of the layout module, it will serialize itself. And
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So both ways, yeah, in case we need both. Most of the time, you don't need to be warned that you will send the live preview as a module developer, but for the layout, it's necessary. So we need that. Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's about as far as I've got at the moment. I don't know if anyone's got any input on.
Yeah, Rob is also saying that we need the button to trigger it.
I mean, yeah, we can put the button in as a kind of fallback. I just think it's quite nice to have it.
Yeah, because if you can open it in a new tab, then if you have two screens set up, then you can have the admin on one screen and the preview on the other screen, and now you are forced to look at a single screen.
Yeah, actually, it's actually two different buttons. One to open a new tab, which is an option that can be done, I'm sure. It's an iframe, and the other option is to force a refresh.
Yeah, so there's actually there was another way to implement this, and it was you could actually just create a new content item and then update on it, which would bypass the database entirely, and then you could just render that. But the reason why it goes into the database is because it's possible to kind of take this URL and then you could put that in a different tab if you wanted to. You could open that on a mobile device. It gives you all those options.
Yeah, the Craft CMS does that also. We talk about it. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah.
Would it be an idea to support multiple drafts and multiple previews?
Well, you might want also the same token things, even if it's not a live preview. Like you could create a draft and share the URL with someone.
Yeah.
It makes more sense than a live preview, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
What makes more sense than live preview?
To share a private URL to show a specific draft to someone who doesn't have access to Orchard.
Right. Should you be able to, similar to the way you generate URLs for media items on Azure?
Yes. Well, this is called a nonce, and we have an API for that, and we use it to send emails, like for accept, reject comments, or.
Yeah, I had a look at that API. There's about 4 or 5 different nonce APIs, and they all live in different modules.
No. There is a single one, and this is the only one you need to use. It's called create nonce and validate nonce, and you can check for the comments module if you want, because it's using that to send, or the workflow modules. The workflow when it sends an email with tokens to render, to accept or approve comments.
Yeah, but they live. So there's 3 instances of create nonce. One's in comments, one's in users, and one's in workflows.
Okay, there is a service. There is a service with that. Not maybe, okay, here is a comment service specific one, but you should use the API which has it, not the comments one, but okay. Maybe the comments one is bad because it was historically probably we did that in comments, and then we are like, we need more of that, so we made a service, but it never replaced the comments one. But there is a service, for sure. Where is that?
And do you think it would be useful to be able to?
No, you're right. Crap. What the fuck?
Yeah.
it's just copy pasting this thing.
Yeah.
So as part of your job is to create a service in the framework API, okay? And then that's weird. I'm sure it's Zoltan who broke it.
They're all they're all slightly different as well.
Mine is better. Use mine. It has been approved. It has been reviewed for sure. Everything is mine. Oh, you see.
So no, your fault then.
No, maybe he created the once in user because I don't remember that in user. But yes, it's also in user for approving emails. So in the comments, it's there to approve. So in the workflows, take the workflows one because no. It's called a signal service. That's weird. No, signal service is from
workflows.
It's from me too. Okay, must be the same. They must be the same. Don't worry. Take one. Email validation works too. So,
because it was mentioned before, so instead of sharing the live preview URL, would we just provide a button and then that would create a draft that could be shared?
You could, yes.
Is that what was suggested before?
Yes, and then you can also make the button in the preview controller so that you can, from the preview controller,
and could you that way have, create URLs to multiple versions of a content item? So you can create one version, share with others, and then share another version.
Totally, because if it works with a draft, and if you have it in the preview action takes a version ID as a parameter.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So if you can preview any version from the audit trail module, for instance, you can get a draft, a public URL for that, which contains a nonce with a validation date. So the token is only valid for like 1 day, something like this.
Which could be a setting, right?
Which could be a setting. Everything is already.
That actually would make it easier because it would mean probably fewer changes to the content manager. So at the moment I've had to make a few changes to get the different version options in there, the 2 new version options. I've had to make a few changes to get that to work.
Because you don't want to create a new controller to see that. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You could reuse the existing controller and then.
No, I don't think you could.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. And if you had a part instead of a setting on the type, the part could render itself on the view to refresh itself if the current state is preview. Time for Siamand. You can think about it offline. And ask me questions if you want. Siamand, your turn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. I think, Chris, you have to stop presenting.
Okay. Now I'm share my screen. Good. Actually, the purpose of the demo is Orchard collaboration. The new version. I wanted to complete it and then demo it. It's a little away from what I have in my mind, but since my velocity is not that good, I try to demo it anyway now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Janos also.
Yeah, the Orchard collaboration is a series of Orchard modules and Orchard recipes that customize Orchard to be used as a collaboration framework. It is its target is to target the end users. So we lose some flexibility of the Orchard here. I try to keep it maximize it, but we lose some flexibility, but it makes it easier for the end users to use it without having much knowledge of the Orchard and still keep some flexibility. Here is actually we have 3 kinds of users for Orchard collaboration. Here is the homepage of the admin user. If he logins into it, here is the activity stream. This part can be reused in other Orchard application. It automatically just need to configure it in the content item level, and it can create an activity stream if the content item is created, change, things like that. Here is the Orchard list, and behind it, it's for quick access to the items we have. We have different types here, list of projects, tickets, operator, customers. Each project, here is the main page of a project. Each project can have different content types attached to it. By default, there are discussions, tickets, milestones, documentation. It can also be extended by creating new content types. Here is the home page of the, for example, project. Here again is a Orchard list, and the user can edit it by changing the portlets that shows here. There are pre-defined portlets, and users can extend them. For example, here I add a new one.
Can developers extend that list of port lists?
Yeah, it can be extended. Actually, there are two kinds of types here. We have template types. They are portlet templates, and they can be extended by just creating a custom content type template, and it will be appears here, and user can select it. And here it creates an item from the template. And by default, I created two kind of templates. One is the projection one. For example, this one is a projection, and another one is a report one. This one is a report one. But the same idea is implemented here. Here we also, there are portlets that are displaying here, and user can change them. And it can also be extended to create new parts here and add it to the sidebar. Same extensibility can be done by creating new content type and attach them to the project. Currently there are discussions, milestones, wiki, and ticket, and there is a attached to project part. And if a content type has this content part, it can be attached to a project. And here is also an Orchard menu, so we can change the menu and add the new content type to the project. For example, here is a discussion. What's done in the behind here is the projection, which can be created by user. What user should be done to add a content type to a project is just create a menu here, a projection, and attach and add the attached to project content part to the project. We have three kinds of users here. One is admin. Now I log in by the admin user, so I see everything. And also operator and customer users. And on every item in the project, permission can be set. So if I log in with another user, I can see, for example, this project, but not all of the items, only the items that I have access to them. Projects also have milestones. Another difference with the Orchard is here milestones render the shapes in the client side. For example, here it completely renders the shapes in the client side, which ticket here is a Orchard content item. In this way, we have better rich UI in the client. In the next version, I wanted to extend it by using now layouts, Orchard layout and dynamic forms are quite stable and mature. I wanted to extend the functionality to use dynamic forms for tickets and dynamic layout also for dashboards. The project dashboard that I have here. Yeah, that's it.
So this project type, it's extensible in this way, where you can attach content types such as active tickets, unassigned tickets, etc. Are the entities customer and tickets themselves extensible in that way, where you can attach other content types?
Yes, it's extensible.
Cool.
Thank you. Paste the link to your website on the chat. Because I think you have a website, right?
Yes.
So if people want to see it, it won't be lost.
That would be cool. And also now previously it was on GNU license. Now it is on MIT license.
New license. Who will do that? Are you crazy?
No.
You don't want to do that, GPL, whatever. No, MIT. Okay, cool. So coming back to my questions. Do you remember this page with two addresses? Street, city, and city, street, which have been ordered differently. Which one is a billing address? Which one is a shipping address? That's the question. So the issue is when we render parts, it's an Orchard issue actually. So that's a part issue. So when we render things, we render a content item. Okay. This is all we can do, render a content item, and this is beautiful. And in Orchard 2, it goes very well it renders a content item. So the content parts and content fields have nothing to do with content management in Orchard 2. They are just ways to represent data in the content item, but you could have content properties, content blocks, content aspects, whatever you want, content that behaves differently than how we have content parts and content fields. That's fine. So, like in Orchard 1, you render content items. And when you call render for content items, you provide a display type. Okay, and based on the display type, there is a main shape. So, for instance, for display, details display type, you have a content.cshtml file, which is the shape called content. And when we go on mode edit, it will render the content .edit.cshtml. Okay. And what happens is, based on this thing, which contains zones like content, like, okay, let's do the edit one. It contains content, it contains actions. In Orchard 1, it contains some field called sidebar, which is always empty. Footer header, metadata. Okay, so this is what happens when you call display. Well, when you call edit, okay, build editor. Okay, for a content item, it will render an edit shape, a content edit shape, and it will ask any component in Orchard to give more shapes to fill the edit shapes. And this is why when we render the body part shape, we say go into content colon 10. Okay, this is what we say. Or we say for the publish button, shape, we say go into actions colon 6. And the save button goes, or the opposite, 5 or 6 and 5 for the save button. Okay, this is how it works. So every part, every component in Orchard can return some shapes, and they will be, it's a flat list of shapes, okay, and they will be rendered this way in the content zone, in the action zone, wherever. So what happens for this field? The fields work the same. The text field says, I want to render the text field in edit mode content colon whatever 10, and they will all be 10. So at the beginning, all the fields were not even ordered. So I changed that to inject a prefix so that when now we render a text field, we have, for instance, content colon billing address dot city, and then something like dot 10. Okay, and this thing is injected by driver. Let me show you. Fields. Text field is better. Well, I did it for the two of them. You see, location, the default location is content plus prefix. Prefix being the thing that is used on the front end to distinguish between the text fields of two different things. So this one contains being address.city. That's how we can group them now. Okay, now they are grouped. These ones are grouped, and these ones are grouped. And the location just overrode some of them. Okay, but it doesn't solve the issue that there are first level items which are rendered in the content. For a part, it's fine because there was only one part. And when we had a field to a type, summary, that's fine also. Okay, it was easy to understand that this is the summary of the article, the body of the article. But now the city is not of the article. This is a city of the billing address of the article. So now there is an issue. There is an issue because the text fields are rendered directly into the content shape. So I'm thinking about wrapping all the shapes into all the shapes for a specific part into a part wrapper, a part zone, or whatever thing we can do, so that we can also change the template for this wrapper. But then if we do that, we can only target the content zone of this wrapper, because then in this case I will have two text fields and we need a wrapper like part wrapper. Okay, but when we define the location of the text fields, it will be a location inside a part wrapper. So if it's the zone called content, then that's fine, it will work because it will be content of the part wrapper, no more content of the content edit shape. So that's a way to do that, but in this case the parts won't be able to target the main layout. So the other solution maybe that will work, I'm just thinking at the same time I'm explaining, maybe the solution will be to actually have the part wrapper be a zone in the content edit, so that if we do something like billing address, and then we could say colon 10. So billing address will just be the name of the zone. So instead of targeting content, we will target prefix plus something like this. So that's an issue I will have to work on. That's the first issue. Okay, I will need to find a way to inject another level inside the editor so we can name the groups, the reusable blocks. So that will be something to change. That's an unfortunate issue.
Yeah, part zones seem to make sense because then you can at least render the name of the part.
Yeah, but it means in your here in location we will need to do something like prefix plus 10. Okay. Instead of content. Another solution will be to do a dot prefix location or local and do 10. So that local will actually wrap the prefix.
Right. Yeah, that's nice.
So location, or have different location overrides to define which one we want. But okay, I will like with an enumeration, like we'll see. But that's the first issue. Second issue, which is more well, it's more a question. If we look at content types, okay, it's a nice list. We can edit content types. But the issue I have when we edit the content types is that we can't order the parts here. You remember in Orchard 1, there is a second button which is edit placement. And then we have a drag and drop experience of all the parts and the fields. Okay. I think we should change it to be the default UI so that I'm missing. So part wrapper can have a position in content and all. Maybe it won't be a part wrapper. Maybe it will be a zone in the content shape. There will be one zone for each part, and each field can then target either the zone of the part it's contained, or a an upper zone like the content itself or the actions from the sidebar. So that it is about providing in the content edit shape dynamic zones. Like in the content edit, we can say render zone. Render zone, you know, like we do model.content, we do that. Display model.content to render the content zone. We say display model.actions to render the action zone. We could say display model billing address. So it's a fake zone. If there is nothing inside, it won't render anything. But it's if something targeted this zone explicitly instead of content and actions, then it will be rendered. Okay, and we just need to render for each part of the type of the item. We do that, and for each part of the item, and if possible, ordered by the way we want to order the parts. Example, I go back to this screen. I have many parts. Maybe I want the billing address to be displayed after the body and before the shipping address. So in Orchard.1, I will go to Edit Placement and I will reorder them, and that will work because I will change the locations of these things. So it could be settings. So we could order these parts by their different settings they have in their content definitions. We can do that. What I'd like to do is have a better experience to reorder and add new parts. So maybe have something like, so when we edit the type, have a list of the parts that are already to the type, can reorder them by drag and dropping, because this is only what we want, okay? Drag and drop parts to order them, and also be able to have the tabs directly, like in Craft CMS. I don't know if you remember Craft CMS. I'd like to see fields, categories, fields. This is the field type. How do we create a type here? Trees. You see, remember this design your field layout. Content is like us, it's exactly like us, it's called content also. So content is a tab, and you can drag and drop fields, and you can create a new tab. We should be able to expose, when I edit a type, we should be able to list all the tabs and add a field in a tab or add a part in a tab, and drag and drop parts from the same tab to reorder them, or on another tab to move them on other tabs. So something like this. And when we edit a part, then we have the editor for the part, and when we add a field, we have the editor.
We lost your screen, Sebastian.
Oh, thank you. I was not showing much actually, just making moves with my mouse. Well, I think you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that I would work on that if everyone agrees on the experience. Instead of having here a flat list of parts and I can remove them and just edit them, being able to have a flat list, but I can reorder them without having to go to the...
Yeah, that's much nicer, because that would be changing the actual shapes around, which would be as some kind of placement replacement.
Well, it's not the shapes, it's the parts itself, not the shapes.
Exactly,
themselves.
but I mean in Orchard.1 it's using the shapes that are being replaced, right, or reordered. But in this case you would be reordering the types or the parts.
And I assume shapes is better granularity, but I'm not sure we need that, because we don't have many parts which render 3 shapes in the edit part. They render one
typically
shape.
that depends on the display type being rendered anyway.
And you want usually from a part all the shapes to be grouped together. So like if I am in the address part, the city and the street have to be together.
Yeah.
So that's fine about moving the address part.
True.
And if I want to reorder all the address blocks, I can still use placement if I really want. To say, no, I want streets before city, and that's it. And you can even target specific fields, so you still have the flexibility. So it's a better default experience for the user to be able to drag and drop and create tabs from the editor here. And yeah, so that's, I think, what I will do.
One question regarding drag and dropping. In Orchard.1, we can add several shapes in to the original shape. I mean, driver can combine several shapes. How it fits into the drag and drop or reusable part? If you make this part reusable, and the part itself, its driver creates 3 different shapes.
Yep. It's just for the edit. So show me a driver in Orchard.1 in the edit method that returns 3 shapes.
I did it. I don't know in the
but you see, so in this case, here it's just about being able to reorder. Forget about drag and drops. It's just about to reorder when parts are rendered when we edit a content type. Do I want my body first, or do I want my billing address first?
True. Yes.
This is just for that.
Yeah, but if billing address, okay, in the edit mode.
Yes, this is just for that. So this is for this edit method. So the display here, you can render as many shapes as you want and localize and place them as you want. But for the edit, the placement that you will provide will probably target either content. Yeah, there is a conflict here. There is a conflict here.
But the shapes will be part of the. Well, if you use
if you target content, you target content, and that's done. But if you target your wrapper, which will be the default way, okay. So in this case, even for the body part, you should target for your wrapper. So the wrapper will be ordered, and if you want to place it specifically somewhere, then you can. You target content.
And would we still want to be able to place those shapes around as you can do with what you want?
Yes,
or would that
because you can go to actions. You can go to sidebar.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, should you be able to do this using drag and drop as you can do with what you want?
I don't think so.
Right.
Not at the shape level like this.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but just wondering. Chris, he found a driver that returns multiple shapes from the editor method.
Contents driver.
From the top of my head, I think it does.
Yeah, but why? Let me show you why.
Yeah, it's for different display types.
Wait.
So you'd only have a display one at a time anyway.
Contents driver. Contents driver in the contents module. The edit returns publish button and content save button. So it returns 2 shapes, okay, which they will target action zone directly. So if you look at you see in Orchard.1, the locations for the placement for these things were in the placement info. In Orchard.2, they can be, look at that, it's beautiful. This is the best example you could give me, thank you. If you look into Orchard.2 for the contents module, the driver for the contents driver also renders in edit mode the save button and the publish button. By chance, you will say, no, look, it's exactly the same code. And it will define a default location, actions 0, actions 5. So it's targeting explicitly the zone actions. So even if we were about to reorder the parts, these ones will still be in the action zone for the buttons. Because they say, I don't want to be ordered, I want to be in actions. Otherwise, they will say location or part location, and it will just say, oh, I can be 5, okay, by default. But if, or whatever, part location, wherever you tell me to go, or part location in the current part, position 6. But here you can still define action 5. And this was in the placement info file in Orchard 1. Now you can define it directly in the driver, or you can define it in the placement file, which I use as an example actually, because I don't have many shapes. You see, content publish button, action 5, same as in the driver. Save button, action 6, move the save button after the publish. This is just an example, or to show you you can still redefine specifically a location. So I think we are good. Thank you for listening to me. That helped. If nobody is complaining, that's good. What Sergio, bye, and you came back. Oh no, you say bye to someone else. It will be interesting to be able to order them, also selecting for which display type from the UI.
So then you would be able to use it on the front end as well.
That could be a different module actually. See what I mean? Because here I'm just talking about content definition and how it's represented. We could use the same location by default. That would not make no sense. Because you could say that actually that's a good point, because if we display the address on the front end, you also need to group the text fields from the address. So this could be a point also for the front end.
But would you want to be able to vary that order per display type? For example, billing address you want to show it.
You might, I don't know, maybe. But also I never really wanted to handle placement for the front end like this, because of the shapes and everything. It's completely different. Okay, we'll see. I think, yeah, I'll think about it. Because you can always think about a way to represent a placement file, even graphically, like we did for the content. Yeah, no, but for the front end it's very hard. Well, I mean, well, it's in the content zone, so that will work too. I have to see. Maybe we need the same thing for the front end, and people can always override the template if they want for the content types. And actually, this logic applies also for the parts.
It seems intuitive for a user. I think that if you move billing address, so that on the front end too, they use whatever position you use here.
And we have the same issue for the parts. So when we edit a part, we want to be able to say, no, city is before street.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to be able to order them. So not, So actually the text field when it renders just says whatever location you want me to do. I don't define any location. It's the, Maybe the fields should not define locations. In Orchard 0.3, for each field, for each part, you had another text box with the location you want, as in actions, :6, contents, :1, and so on. So you will type what you want as a location, and there will be no ambiguity. You can redefine it. It's not drag and drop, and it's overriding or not what you define in a driver. So it's the best thing you could have. But it's not.
And that's why, of course, in Orchard 1 you are able to not drag and drop parts and fields, but their outputted shapes.
Well, 6, but yeah, and just for the edit. No, it's unrelated. It's just a feature we needed. But
Yeah, just for the edit.
But when people saw the location in the content type editors, people didn't understand what it meant. It's hard to get that. You can type content : 10. Why content : 10? What does it mean? And people want to reorder visually at this level. I don't know. Okay.
Maybe the fields UI should look similar to the list of parts UI on the content type level.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it will. That's the issue, because it will just be a relative order. I'm below body part, or street is below city, but it's below. Here is not about relative; it's about absolute. I'm position 6. I'm position 5. And when you move, you can't say no. I don't want to change the default, because there is no. I can't change the default. It's under city when you see a reorderable thing. Yeah. Okay. I see. That's hard. Okay. Well, that's already too long. Sorry, guys.
No worries. This is interesting. But good luck with that.